Hello and welcome to the Wendell Effect for the Indian markets. My name is Brandon Wendell and I'm going to guide you through my view on the Indian stock market, some individual securities, as well as the ETFs that track the indexes and sectors as well. So this is for the week of the 23rd of July, 2023. Before we get started, just a reminder, everybody, we're not broker-dealers or investment advisors. We're going to look at this information from an educational standpoint only. I'm not telling you to buy or hold any particular securities, give any personalized recommendations. There is always risk of loss in the markets. Do not trade with money you cannot afford to lose. And we are also not subject to trading restrictions. We can have positions in a security initiate one at a time. Anyway, if you got any feedback, anything you'd like me to talk about, please stay in touch with me. You can email me, of course, at brandonwendell.cmt@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at TraderBDub. And of course, please, if you could, hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps us out a lot. You can get the alerts for notifications as well if you want to be in touch with us to see when new videos come out as well. So looking at the last month, pretty bullish. Just a few standouts there. Hindustan Unilever, Ultra Cement Company, but for the most part, pretty green there. And last week, just cooled off a little, but not nearly as bad as it has been in the past. Still very bullish. Infosys fell back a little bit, JSW Steel as well. So looking at the Nifty on the weekly basis, you can see we finished off with a bearish candle. That's a big topping tail, could be a shooting star if we end up gapping down this week. And we'll just have to wait and see. We're still pretty bullish. There's lots of momentum to the upside. Looking at the Nifty on the daily, we could be in for a small retracement. As you can see, we've got the Fibonacci set up. This is probably the best turning point. You got that basing, and that's where we really exploded from, right around, I guess that's the 38.2% retracement. See, that's 0, 23, 38. Yeah. So that's about 19,500 right in that area for that pullback. And from there, we should bounce yet again. All the way down the 4-hour chart, you can actually see right around that 19.5, there actually is a demand zone as well as the 38% retracement. So that's a really good possibility for a bounce when we get to that particular demand and that overlapping of the Fibonacci retracements. Looking at the Sensex, pretty much the same picture. We've got signal that we might be pulling back a little bit with that shooting star or inverted hammer, whatever you want to call it. And here we see if we do pull back, I didn't put the fibs on, but we have a demand zone, pretty much the same as what we saw in the Nifty, around 66,000. On the 4-hour chart, same thing, waiting for that pullback, right around 66. You got that nice demand zone to possibly bounce. So looking at some sectors here, Nifty IT, you can see we had a big gap down. I think it was driven by some of the earnings that were out there as well. We still have plenty of momentum to the upside, so it doesn't look like we're going to turn around. It looks more or less like we just have a little correction going on right now. That's all. So we ended up turning right at our supply, which overlapped the fib extension. Not a surprise, but we should be able to bounce and go higher by the end of the week. Nifty Auto is also in a little retracement, but instead of pulling back sharp, it's really just going sideways and kind of skimming off the 23.6. So we may pull back more, and if we do, the next turning point, that 15,300, looks really good for the fib retracement, as well as it's right around this buying pressure that came out as well. You kind of have rally, base, rally, and the top of the wick happens to be that 15,300 area. So if we do pull back, expect prices to rally up to 16,000 afterwards. On Nifty PSU Bank, again, seeing a little bit of weakness with these topping tails on the daily chart, and we've lost a lot of momentum. So we may be getting a pullback here down to about 43.50, 43.75 before rallying up. Nifty CPSE, we've got a retracement already to about 50% or 61.8, kind of in that area, and we're marching back up. We are losing a little bit of momentum, so we'll have to see. Hopefully we can get through and break out to new highs. But if we're going to stall, it's going to be right near these prior highs at about 33.50. Nifty Digital also had a pretty big pullback here. You see the gap down to about the 50% retracement, and we lost a little momentum, so we'll have to see. We may just go a bit sideways and try to fill the gap, but I don't see a lot of bullish momentum for this particular security. On the Nifty Private Bank, we actually did do a 50% retracement and have bounced since then, paused at our first fib extension, and it looks like we're going to head up to the next one this week. So we should maybe top out, go a little bit sideways, maybe even pull back a little, but not until we hit 23,800. So that's where we're getting we paused a little bit on Friday, should be moving up from there. Nifty PSE also did a little pullback to the 50% retracement at the start of this little basing and rally as well. And now again, we are rallying with a little less momentum. So while we may get up to 5,300, it's going to take a while for it to happen. We may end up going a little sideways and flat as we reach the prior high here at 52.65 first. Nifty Financial Services are very, very bullish, but there's a problem with momentum again. Notice high and lower high on momentum, even though we made a higher high in price. So with that divergence, we might get a pullback to this 23% retracement, 20,312. It's also kind of a, I guess it wasn't really a reversal pattern. It was kind of a bearish harami right there, but it didn't really follow through. But now we got this topping tail. It's kind of a gravestone doji that if we break the low of that doji, expect a pullback to at least the 20,312, maybe even all the way back to 20,000. On the Nifty Pharma, looking very strong. We got more momentum here, not less. So we got a little bit of indecision. Look to see if we can break the high, we should be able to go up to 14.5. If we don't, we break the low, expect a pullback perhaps to about 13.8, between 13.8 and 14,000. But really, this 13.8 looks like a good origin of rally. A lot of buying pressure there. On the small caps for the Nifty, we're definitely losing momentum, but not pulling back, just going sideways. So I expect more of that, maybe a little bit of a drift downwards, so we could bounce at about 50.25, taking us to the new targets up above at 53.79. But like I said, it's either going to be a bit sideways or possibly pull back first. So look for better buying opportunities on the pullback. On the mid cap, same thing. We're getting a little bit of weakness. We still have decent momentum, so we might just get a small pullback. I have no idea. There's no zones, no nothing. Actually, let me see. Nifty mid cap. If I go out to my live charts and let's check this out. About the Nifty mid cap on the indices here. And what I wanted to do actually is go from this daily chart, and let's get rid of these moving averages for now. There we go. Let's keep the chart clean. But what I was going to do is drop down to, say, a 60-minute and look to see if there's any kind of demand that we can target here. And there really isn't anything great, to be honest with you. So the only thing that was really decent, I mean, yeah, there's buying pressure, it's choppy. The only really great demand zone on the 60-minute is way down here at 10,154. So, and you can see it already worked. So we'll see. Maybe we do get that deep on the pullback. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. But that's 10,154. So getting back, yeah, that would put us right in about here. So that's a pretty good area for an entry if it does pull back. Nifty Healthcare also seeing a little bit of weakness. You see the topping tail on the last candle indicating bearishness. If we break the low of that candle, 91.92, then we're likely to drop down perhaps to 89.80. On Nifty Infrastructure, we've already done a pullback and rallied up out of it. We're looking good. A little pause going on right now, but we're likely to go sideways rather than down because this is so bullish. And then perhaps finish the week strong, running up towards that 6,000 next projection level. Nifty Oil and Gas also diverging. Notice higher high in price, lower high on the indicator indicates prices are going to pull back. Now they may just pull back to the 7,900 level. If it gets very bearish, actually we could come down towards the 7,700. Nifty FMCG, this sector is looking a little bearish because, again, we had the higher high in price, but we lost a ton of momentum. Usually this is going to be something that you see rallying when the Nifty's going down, kind of a counter trend safety play. So as the markets are going up quite well, you don't really see much of a call for FMCG. So it looks as though we could start to go down a bit. This is a bearish harami, even though the wick did protrude out of the body here. The bodies are contained. So if we break the low at 53,300, you could expect prices to get very bearish and push us down to 51,701 even. That won't happen this week. Obviously, if we break the lows, we can start moving down. Looking at Nifty Energy, you can see that has broken out to a new high. But again, we're having trouble with the momentum. You should have had a much higher peak on momentum on the RSI when you made a new high in price as well. And since that didn't happen, that's a signal that prices might get ready to correct. So what I'm seeing right now is, again, I'm waiting for a pullback, maybe to this 38% retracement right around 25,300. And if you get a little more bearish, it may bounce right here at 25,100 for that next kickoff back to the upside. But expect a pullback this week, and we may get the start of a rally towards the end of the week. Nifty MNC also seeing a little bit of weakness. Notice the momentum is just dying off the whole way while we're trying to make new highs. So we're just going a bit sideways right now. We may end up pulling back before we can bounce. And Nifty Realty, same problem. Look at the lack of momentum here. The RSI should show lots of momentum if you're making new highs. The fact that it's diverging says we're correcting. And you see we already pulled back a little bit. We're likely to pull back even more before we're finished. Okay, so again, just waiting for a bit of a pullback here this week on the Realty. Nifty Consumer Durables also looking a little weak. You can see we actually made lower high both on momentum and the indicator after divergence. It's not changing trend, but we are correcting. It could get as weak as 26.5. That's really the next demand zone that we have here on the daily chart. So before we get down there, we would actually have to rally and make another lower high first. And that would be your clue. It's going down to 26.5. If that doesn't happen, we could just drift sideways and then rally again. Looking at the Nifty Media, this is also taking a little sideways turn, and you can see we lost our momentum. Didn't really die off too badly, so we're not diverging or anything, which means that we should see some continuation to the upside. We might just go a bit sideways first before it can rally. And Nifty Metal ran all the way through the supply zone and then started to pull back a little. Very bullish. We may only pull back to 23.6, which is 6,400, or down to 63.28. Or is that 62? I can't really see the number. Oh no, 63. So low 63 before we bounce again. And then our upside target's the next supply here at 6,800. Looking at the Nifty Bank, there it goes. Very, very bullish, very strong. We got a little pause going on right now. Again, that topping tail, kind of a gravestone doji. So if we break the low of that, I expect a pullback. And again, let's go into the Nifty Bank here. And there we are. I just want to get a little more detail on this. So I went on the daily chart, and again, you see that pullback that's possible. So I'll go down to the 60-minute time frame. And on that 60-minute time frame, bear with me a moment here. There we go. We could see that, well, I don't know if this is going to be a good zone, but it could be a rally out of that on the pullback. Let me just do something here. Hang on. Again, I could put up the retracement on the last impulse up, and that'll be a little more meaningful for us. So again, we go down to the 60-minute time frame, and you can see right there where that bullish pressure begins. Great entry point at 45,673, perhaps, for the bounce. And if it gets worse, 50% retracement, 45,458. I don't see that really happening. I think we should bounce here at the 45,673 and continue to make some new highs from there. So before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and put in an arrow to let me remind myself for next week when we check this. This is where I was expecting to pull back to and bounce. Now, going into some of the trades we'd already been talking about, let's go ahead and follow up on those and see how they're doing. So we've got HDFC Bank after the merger here, and we did bounce off our demand zone. We are having a little retracement before we can go higher. It's a little troubling that we could not get above 60 on the RSI as we made that high, so that's why we're kind of stuck a little bit. But hopefully we pick up bullish pressure soon and not make a new low. If we break this prior low, we could go all the way back down pretty much to where we got in on the entry. But if we hold steady sideways or start to rally, we should be able to meet up with those overhead supply soon. NHPC Limited hit target 1, did a big pullback, rallied up again, but once more, we're getting a little bit of weakness. I don't see us pulling back too far. I have more detail here. You can see on the 60-minute that we've come back into a great little demand zone here, and it may not be too late. Obviously, we've already moved away from the optimal entry, which is at the zone itself. So you're going to have to place your stop below 46.40, the demand zone, but there still may be opportunity getting in here. Just don't get in too late. You want to enter somewhere right between 46.50 and 47 rupees rather than trying to get in any higher than that. Rama Steel on the daily chart hit demand and stalled out before supply. So following up on this, we are pulling back right now. We've pulled back 50% from the previous impulse. I think we're starting to flatten out here. We shouldn't go any lower. If we do, then this could collapse all the way down to 3630, which is the next area of demand there. But most likely, we're starting to see it go sideways, and we're holding above 40. We're getting ready to rally and break out again. So there may be some opportunities either to go long, or even on Rama Steel, if the volatility is low, you can look for a possible bull call spread, or even just buying calls, some option opportunities. Because the volatility should be low right now. Actually, let me see if I can check that. I was looking at a few opportunities here. So let's see, Rama Steel. Let's see if it shows it to me. Here we go, Rama Steel. And I want to see if I can get the options chains. Lets me do that. Where we go here, trade information. So I was on options before. Hang on a second. I'm looking and I don't see it showing derivatives here, so there may not be any available, unfortunately. When I go into other banks or other securities, it usually shows derivatives, but Rama Steel doesn't show that, so I apologize. It might not have any options available. So we could just look for a buy on the breakout to the upside. Zomato Limited, this one actually did pull back, hit our entry, hit our target, and has pulled back yet again. We do have earnings coming up in the beginning of August, so keep an eye out for that. Right now, we could re-enter if we can get a pullback. This is on the 60-minute time frame to 77.75 to 77.30. So if you can get a pullback to that area of demand, you may be able to join this, but we need that pullback before it happens. And if we do pull back from where we are now, then that leaves 81.15 as target one. If not, just go back to the daily chart for those targets. But I'm looking like we could get another entry here on Zomato. Credit Access daily chart did not pull back, but we just had earnings release. So let's see. Oops, wrong one. If we can get a pullback now after earnings happen, we might be able to enter into this at 1200 basically, with a stop below 1168.70. IDFC First Bank earnings are coming out on the 28th, this coming Friday. So this is when I was looking at the options opportunity, because look at how we're consolidating now. Sorry, I didn't draw the lines there. I thought I had, but we were consolidating and getting ready to possibly break out one direction or the other. So what I was thinking is on IDFC, if I go back there it is, IDFC First Bank, going to the derivatives and the option chain. If we take a look, and if we're buying options, we want to go out a little while because you don't want that time value decaying. They are more expensive, but the time decay won't hurt you while you're trying to make money on the movement. So anyway, if we look at the 82s, it doesn't look like there's good volume or anything there, but really I would look at something like an 82 straddle, or maybe even a strangle, where you buy a call and a put. Sorry about that. And let's see, which one was it? IDFC First Bank. Sorry, I'm on the wrong page here. Oh, I closed out my slide. No, I didn't. There it was. Bear with me. All right, here we are. So if you're going to do a strangle, you can go ahead and basically buy the call around 85 and buy the put around 80. It'd be a little bit cheaper than the straddle. You could do the strangle and wait for that big breakout in either direction. Because basically, we don't want to buy this necessarily on the breakout. We want to buy it when it bounces off our demand zone. That may not be for a while. So there could be an options opportunity here. The implied volatility looked a little low. It'll usually increase, which will also help your long position on the options. So moving on, Alok Industries. We are almost to that demand zone. Not quite there yet. We already had earnings. And hopefully, we had earnings in the gap down before. It took it a few days and then rallied. So we may get a repeat of that as well. Anyway, last week's trades that we went over that I released for us, we're going to go ahead and follow up on those, And you can see RTN Power Daily did not quite hit the demand zone. Unfortunately, it came up and hit the target before the demand zone, so we're going to go ahead and cancel that. SJVN, also, we were waiting for a pullback to an area of demand on that one, and you can see it never did. Unfortunately, hit the target or close to it. So you may have to give up on that one as well because it basically almost hit target anyway. M&M Finance, really close to the demand zone there. And you can see we have earnings coming up before, I think it's like Friday the 28th, if I'm not mistaken. So we are still very, very close to the entry. Haven't hit it yet. So keep an eye out for this. We're getting very close to 309.70, 301.15 entry with a stop about 299.90 and targeting those levels overhead. Axis Bank was another trade idea we were looking at. Earnings are coming out very soon, and we're still just going sideways, so drifting. This may also be a good options candidate if you can wait for a breakout of this range we're sitting in, basically above 990 or below 945, 950. Let's see if we get the derivatives for that as well. Let's try that. Axis Bank. Perfect. And there's the derivatives. So we have them. So we can go into the option chain. And again, when I buy options, I don't go for the cheap ones that are expiring soon. I'm going to go out further. Just that way the time value doesn't decay too much on me. But we can look for something. Looks like there's some decent, not the best open interest in volume, but there may be something out here. I was hoping to see the volatility. It's not showing it. Let me see if it shows underlying information. Volatility in the last 6 months. Show the current volatility. This is maximum, minimum, and average. And there might be some other programs that you have that could show you a little bit better, but it's not really showing me anything here. Again, just kind of looking around, trying to find the implied volatility, but that's okay. We'll look for it another time. But just keep in mind, if you're an options trader, when they're basing like this, you might have an opportunity for a straddle or strangle for the breakout again. So some new trade ideas going forward for this week. We have South India Bank on a daily chart that's actually pulled back and hit our demand. So we'll see where this opens up. It's post-earnings, so we have high volatility right now, but we should get a bounce as the trend is bullish, and we're close to the 89. We didn't actually hit it, unfortunately. Hindustan Construction, HCC, is also pulling back towards this area of demand that had an explosive move to new highs and led us up towards the target before, but we could make another run for that. I'm looking for a bounce at both demand and the moving average at the same time in that area. That'd be great. Keep an eye out. We do have August earnings coming out very soon, so you want to keep the stops tight or maybe even exit until after the earnings come out if you happen to get in before. On Reliance, also pulling back for a possible long opportunity, 2474, 2506, and we'll see if that gives us a nice bounce upwards. We may continue to drift a little sideways until we hit the moving average as well, the 89 moving average. JSW Steel, also a candidate for a long. If we can get a pullback, which we should, we got a nice divergence here. Had some earnings come out and didn't look so great. So if we can pull back to 750 area, I'm looking for a long there and just targeting the projections. IDBI Bank, also waiting for a pullback. Great demand zone, kind of drop base and strong rally out of that area. So keep an eye out for that and targeting the projections that haven't been tested yet. This one was already tested. Anyway, that's what I got for you this week. If you got any questions, please let me know. BrandonWendell.cmt@gmail.com, @TraderBdub on Twitter. And please, if you could hit the like and subscribe button for me, it really helps me out. You can also get the alerts for new videos. I want to thank everybody for being here, and that is the Wendell Effect for the week.